Vyacheslav Molotov was the Soviet foreign minister in 1939. He had demanded concessions from Finland, which had been part of the Russian Empire before World War I and the subsequent Finnish Revolution. He was seeking control of the Karelian Isthmus, a small piece of land lying between Lake Ladoga and the Gulf of Finland, which opens to the Baltic Sea. Russia had hopes of building a naval base there to defend Russia against a possible German attack. The Finns were having none of it, so Molotov, at the onset of World War II, in November of 1939, authorized the Soviet invasion of Finland, starting what came to be known as the Winter War. Molotov, who thought himself quite witty, referred to the cluster bombs the Soviets dropped on the Finnish people as food parcels for the starving Finns. You see, in the Second World War there was no Geneva Convention, and torture, starvation, and the targeting of civilians was as commonplace then as it is today in Gaza. The Soviets were surprised at how strong the Finnish resistance was. The Soviets, it seems, have a long history of underestimating their opponents. The invasion lasted through the winter and into the spring of 1940. Finally, in March, starving and outnumbered, the Finns agreed to a peace treaty, ceding some territory to the Soviets, but maintaining their independence. Finnish fighters had extensively used incendiary weapons made from bottles filled with a mixture of tar, ethanol, oil, and gasoline, and stoppered with wicks made from rags or screw tops. The Finns sarcastically named them Molotov Cocktails, cocktails to accompany Molotov's food parcels. The distillery at Rajamäki outside Helsinki, which was operated by Finland's state-owned alcohol monopoly, Oi Alkoholilaki, switched from making booze to making Molotov cocktails. They acquired several anti-aircraft guns used as protection to counter the Soviet bombers targeting the distillery. Some 540,000 Molotov cocktails were manufactured by a workforce of more than 90, almost all of them women. Not shockingly, workers at the Pravda brewery in Lviv, Ukraine, have done the same thing, producing thousands of petrobombs, again to be used against the Soviets by a people unwilling to be conquered. As the Second World War continued, Hitler would in fact attack the Soviet Union, and the Finns would ally with Nazi Germany, hoping to reclaim their lost territory. They were considered co-belligerents against the Soviet Union in World War II, rather than formal allies, and Finland never became an Axis member. Historically, Molotov cocktails were bottles filled with oil and gasoline, then capped. Storm matches were strapped to the sides of the bottles. Storm matches were like easy strike matches with long sticks, coated in pine tar and sawdust to keep them burning even in high winds. The bottles were held by the neck like a club. The matches were lit, and once burning, the bottles were thrown at vehicles or soldiers. Later iterations were made with rags as wicks. Often the wicks were corked into the bottle with sticks, corks with grooves cut in them, or wrapped tightly with tape. The wick was often strapped to the side of the bottle with baling wire. Once lit, the wick would remain burning when thrown, igniting the gas and oil mixture when the bottle broke on impact. Some have contained gasoline and oil or tar, others gasoline with styrofoam dissolved in it to create a sticky napalm. Napalm was in fact a mixture of gasoline and polystyrene. The addition of oil to the gasoline creates a longer burn, thicker smoke, and reduces the ability of the gas fumes to suddenly ignite and burn the person lighting it or explode in their hands. Still others were bottles with screw tops. A rag was twisted and laid across the top and down each side, then wired or taped around the neck. When ready, the cap is loosened to soak the rag, then closed tightly before lighting and throwing. Storm matches, rags, and even road flares have been used as ignition sources. While Vyacheslav Molotov has been largely forgotten by all but historians, his name lives on in infamy. The petrobombs, created to fight his forces and named to ridicule him, have become an almost universal symbol of resistance. Referred to as the poor man's hand grenade, they have become the iconic weapon of the underdog and have played a part in every armed urban conflict and act of defiance against the military since that fall in 1939. The use of fire or incendiary weapons against civilians is outlawed by the international humanitarian law treaties, specifically the Geneva Conventions and their related protocols. The U.S. military, however, still uses incendiary weapons, like the Mk-77 bomb. The U.S. dropped some 550 of these bombs on targets during Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and the invasion of Iraq. The U.S. military, in fact, continues to train with incendiary weapons, including Molotov cocktails. Incendiary weapons are some of the most agonizing weapons used by man, causing severe burns, excruciating pain, asphyxiation, respiratory issues, blindness, and disfigurement. Burning to death is likely the most painful way to die on the battlefield. That said, fire has historically played a role in every conflict, from the tales of Archimedes' mirrors used to burn the attacking fleet during the siege of Syracuse to the flaming arrows of the Vikings, from the burning catapults of the Greeks to the flaming tar bombs of the Mongols. Fire has played a part in warfare ever since there has been fire and warfare.